but all of, Kham, Amdo, Kham, and Uzang, and Ngari. And so this has been the reason why they are so intent upon trying to destroy the Tibetan culture, and if necessary, the Tibetan people. Because Deng Xiaoping was always afraid, particularly also his fear increased after the Soviet Union had to give up the Baltic states, Kazakhstan, and many of its colonial possessions, Tajikistan, etc. And he was afraid that this would happen someday to China, that they would have to give back Tibet to Tibetans. So he made this big effort to try to fill Tibet up with Chinese people and to destroy the Tibetan culture. So that is a very key point we have to remember. So I have the solidarity with the many people in Amdo and Kham in the 50s who lost their life fighting, which is becoming out more and more, learning about how they were exterminated actually in Amdo. And some wonderful Chinese woman has been recovering the records of the many people slaughtered in Amdo. And then, of course, the Kamba, Chushikandru, and Kamba resistance fighters. And then all the people who lost their lives in the class struggle of the Cultural Revolution, so-called Cultural Revolution, and how that was used in Tibet. And then the heroes all the way up till then, since 84, 83, when Deng Xiaoping insisted and put Chen Kuei-yan in control in Tibet, and brought back Ragdi and these kind of old-fashioned cultural revolutionaries, proclaiming that Tibetan Buddhism is seditious and is subverting of the state, because Tibetan Buddhists like the Dalai Lama, they like the real Panchen Lama, they want to have their own type of Buddhism, not some other kind of fake Buddhism. And since 84, there's been a lot of suffering. And then there are the heroes of 2008 who showed a protest, showed their resistance, showed their mental freedom all over Tibet, mostly non-violently. And I personally believe that the violence that was televised in Lhasa was fake, actually. It was staged by Zhang Jingli to try to make a bad propaganda against Tibet. And some of those so-called Kambas running around were actually Chinese secret police, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. I don't have concrete evidence. So I want to show solidarity with all of them. And finally, with these people, and that brings me to these heroes, 152 of them so far, who are great heroes and heroines, I believe, of the Tibetan freedom struggle, exemplifying the essence of the real Tibetan freedom struggle, which is nonviolent, which is following His Holiness the Dalai Lama's great teaching of nonviolence, the middleway, which is the best policy, not nationalism and not violence and not militaristic, but showing that, that you just keep clinging to the truth. You present the truth, the reality, and eventually, in Gandhian theory, eventually the moral force of the nonviolent act of truth brings the enemy finally to realize that the enmity itself is fruitless and self-destructive. And all of these people who the Chinese government tries to make a propaganda that they're terrorists, because they do strike terror and fear in the heart of the evil person. And also we should never call them self-immolation, by the way. I just did a commentary on the wonderful Tsering Özer, her marvelous book about the body immolators, which is what we should call them. Ranglu Mesek, or Ranglu Meche, I think, in Tibetan. You don't say Rang Sek, you say Ranglu Mesek, because Rang is your Sem, is your Shinto-Tara, is Lung Sep, and this Sem goes to another life, and they're reborn even better, like bodhisattvas, the people who do this. So they are not committing suicide. They are not acting out of despair, these people. They are making a very powerful protest and a demonstration, a victorious demonstration of their independence and their freedom, and that no one can dominate them. Even the killer who is aiming the gun at them. You can't kill me, I'll give my own body away. It's a very, very powerful statement, and it strikes fear and terror into the heart of the dominating, egotistical, evil person who wants to dominate and control and possess and destroy. That someone will just give themselves away. because there's something more important in life than just fighting each other and getting the better of each other and competing with each other. And it's self-defeating for China to continue to abuse Tibet, to destroy the Tibetan environment, which is the source of the water that comes to China. They're destroying themselves, of course, stupidly. And not to mention all the people in Southeast Asia, the Mekong River, the Salween, the Iran.